I tend to think the year the Jets get over 500 and break their playoff drought will be a year we don't expect it. And I always end up referring back to 2006 as like the best example of that. The Jets were supposed to be very bad that year. Very similar situation in many ways to right now with a new head coach and a new general manager. And it was a low expectation team with, at that point, who was considered sort of a veteran. Wasn't, you can't call Pennington a cast off, but most people kind of assumed his like time was just about up with the Jets post 2005. And he was just kind of like playing out the string as a starter. And he was like, for his Pennington self, was like good that year. They punched above their weight with defense, like Victor Hobson and all these guys were like, all right. And that offseason was actually really similar in free agency with the kind of guys they signed. Like it was a lot of like mid-tier, low-tier free agents. To be fair, some of the differences were that they brought in like some older guys too, like Kimo von Olenhofen and like Tim Dwight to round out the roster. But on paper, like it was like, I always remember the Jets were like pick 32nd in like ESPN's power rankings. They went 10-6 and they lost in the first round, but they were well coached. They had solid guys like Kotry and Coles and Chris Baker, and they made it work at running back with like a three-headed monster of like Kevin Barlow, Cedric Houston, and Leon Washington. And part of why they were good that year was that they nailed the draft, right? They got Brick and Mangold, and they were immediate starters and good. They got Leon Washington and Brad Smith and Eric Smith, and they were like able to like contribute. So that is kind of a similar path where can they have a really good draft this year? Can some of the guys that we're not expecting to punch above their weight and you have a softer schedule and you go 9-8 and you're a 7 seed. And just like that, the monkey's off the back for the playoff drought. That won't be the expectation. Most people will pick the Jets probably to win 5 or 6 games, but you know, who knows if that ends up being right. And when I say guys punching above their weight, I'm talking about like